Hi, welcome to a special Father's Day edition of Ask Andy Anything. And today I have first time ever on my show, my dad, Professor Richard B. Chase, otherwise known as Dick Chase. So welcome, Dad.
Nice to be here, Andy.
So most of you that have followed my Divorced Dad series know that I am a divorced dad and I am a father of three. And two out of my three children are now adults, and I'll be an empty nester in about 2 years. But one of the things that was really important for me, especially when I got divorced, my kids were very young, is trying to create meaningful connections with each one of them. These things don't happen in a vacuum. And so I thought this would be a great time to talk to my dad. So, Dad, I want to open up the floor to you so you can share with me some things that you learned from your father that you brought, the things that you shared with me, or with also I have a younger brother and an older sister, but things that you learned from your father that you shared with us kids, and or things that you really found valuable from your father.
My dad was a very intelligent guy, and he was a Shakespeare scholar, actually, and he was a writer and an editor. One time he said, "Dick, I think it'd be interesting for you to come over and get yourself fingerprinted." Fingerprinted, yeah. So I'm about 15 years old, and he takes me to the police station, and sure enough, to see what it was like, he got me a set of fingerprints. The fact is that I was very proud of having myself fingerprinted, to sort of see what goes on in the police station. One way he got me involved and is that when I was about 10, we ended up building a house. We built a house in Adelanto, suburb of Victorville, which is a suburb of San Bernardino, which is a suburb of the end of the world, basically. But because I was an asthmatic, and my father and mother were very concerned about my health, and I needed to live in the high desert when I was young. So we built a house in Adelanto, and I remember actually putting cement blocks together and carrying them from the one place to another while Dad and some workers actually built a house. And I still remember I was very proud of my flight jacket that I had as a 10-year-old flight jacket, and unfortunately carrying those blocks of granite tore up my jacket, so I'm still lamenting that. Dad was always tried to do things that were interesting to me. My mom and I were great baseball fans. My dad, not so much, but he wanted to be with me and to kind of do stuff that I would like to do. So he took me to the Hollywood Stars games, and he learned cliches about the various players. He had no idea what we were talking about. Like, there was a baseball player for the Hollywood Stars back in the 50s named Tommy Saffel. And he said that, I said, nobody can field like Tommy Saffel. So my dad would go up there and say, we'd be watching the game. He'd say, out of the blue, nobody can field like Tommy Saffel. So he basically, I was more the common man than my dad. And he was, again, an intellectual. He had, he would do things for me, take me places. But we played pool together, and I guess in terms of learning in general, he was a very patient guy. Although he sometimes had things that he used as sort of a critical comment on anything I tried to fix. I had not exactly a good repairman, and so I remember something would break down, and my dad would say, as I tried to put it back together, he'd say, "Don't force it." So no matter what it is, I yell out, "Don't force it," because that was obviously a mistake that I was going to make.
Well, you brought up something earlier when you talked about your father bringing you to get fingerprinted, and you really enjoyed that. What made him think, number one, that would be something you'd be interested in? And number two, what's the feeling inside from that experience with your father?
Well, I think the out of the box doing something kind of strange is always memorable, and nobody else's father ever took them to get fingerprinted.
Well, you felt special amongst your friends. Did you tell your friends about what you did?
I told them about that. That's right. So I felt that was a fun thing to do. And unfortunately, it's been so long since things happened to me. I know he did a lot of other things, but they're back in the 80, 75 years ago. So that your mind gets a little slow on those things.
It's really about things that you brought along to us to create these memorable experiences. And I can think of one thing is every 4th of July, you would ask us, well, I'm not sure if it was an ask, but it was, it just happened, is to wash your car. And then after we washed your car, the three of us, then you would take us out for donuts. And that was a really special thing. I still remember, the powder from the donuts, all over my face you allowed us to really dig in. Where did you get the idea for that? I mean, first to have the concept of, doing manual labor first, followed by the carrot, of course, which was a donut.
I don't know. It was, I think it sort of came from our going out and having fun together as a family, but we had to maybe clean up the mess afterwards. And I think there's nothing wrong with kids doing manual labor. In fact, I think it's a great thing to do jobs that you would never choose to do, because, and my dad sort of had, I guess he did this implicitly, but I've always felt that the more you do jobs you don't like, the more you're going to be motivated to do jobs that you do like. And that's, I guess, one thing that I think that I would have liked to have done, because my business doesn't lend itself to kid participation. As a professor of a boring subject like business, it doesn't necessarily track well for kids. But when I was studying my PhD program, and one thing I would, maybe if the situation were the same as it was back then, I had my brother come and help me run a physiological experiments. I was studying the energy used up in doing work for my thesis, and my brother just loved going to the lab, and he would be a subject for me too. I'd instrument him and watch his heart rate and his oxygen consumption go up. And he found being in that environment and dealing with something truly intellectual that you're trying to understand was for him a great motivator. He said that was a thing that motivated him for his going to professorships, going into teaching. And in reflecting, I'm not sure there's much I could have done with you guys with respect to say have the same experience, because basically what I did is I went and talked to adults, and I guess it was the kind of stuff that you could have done for research, just wouldn't do well for young kids. Maybe in this day and age, with the growth of Shark Tank and so forth, there's an entrepreneurship element to business and study that had I thought about it, maybe I would have said, hey, let's go on and see if we can start a business sort of thing. But so that's more of an opportunity not understood back in the day. But
well, a few things come up from what you said. Number one, in some ways you were like a father to your brother because of that 10-year difference.
Yeah.
And so you were doing things, father type things, before you even had your actual children. So you had started it early. Another thing is, in terms of incorporating your work, I'm not sure if you remember this, but you used to pay us to edit your textbooks, to read over things. And that, especially being young, I remember feeling like I wasn't just a stupid kid, and it made me feel more mature. And it actually ended up helping me once I got into the business world, because I did not major in business in college. I was the furthest thing from it. I graduated with a degree in physical education and barely graduated with that. It was in my DNA, I guess, to go into the business world. And so when I became one of the most successful managers in the history of the recruiting firm that I, started my career with, and a lot of the things that the way I looked at things had to do from going out with you when we go out to eat. Do you remember that Thanksgiving? I must have been a teenager. Everything basically went wrong. I think they ran out of turkey, or things were cold. Do you happen to remember that?
Well, I don't remember the details, but I do remember everything just fell apart. That's right. And since I studied services, you guys were just waiting for me to climb all over the folks there. But yeah, no, I remember that well. You know, one thing that strikes me is that what that my dad did is he spent a lot of time rereading my work. He wasn't good at teaching me arithmetic or things like that. He was fine in math, but I just didn't take well to his teaching. But he was really good when it came to writing, and so he would edit my stuff for me. I'd write stuff, and so that helped me become a pretty good writer, from at least in a practical, worldly way. As things got older, I had more fun with my dad, simply because he didn't particularly relate to kids. He got me to play tennis, so I learned how to play tennis with him. We played checkers a lot. That was my go-to game when I had asthma. Dad would play checkers with me. I am a Scrabble player, and he played Scrabble with me when I was younger. The way I think that our family, and you've inherited this, has a big sense of humor. I mean, there's funny side about everything. And by the way, I forgot to mention one thing: advice for new marrieds: don't ever talk politics if you don't agree where you're starting. It doesn't work. I figured out minds don't change when it comes to baseball teams and politics. You know, you're a shark all the way, or you're not. Yeah.